It started like any other break at work. I was scrolling through my phone, half distracted, sipping cold coffee and checking emails. And then I saw it, a message from Ethan. Just one line. "Pack your things and leave. I'm bringing my new woman home. You're no longer useful to me." That was it. No context, no warning. Just a digital execution of my marriage. I didn't scream. I didn't even cry. Not at first. I stood up, walked calmly to the bathroom, locked the door behind me, and just stared at the tiled wall. My hands were shaking, my breath shallow, like the air itself had betrayed me. I slid to the floor, phone clutched to my chest, and tried to understand how everything I built just vanished with a vibration. What kind of man says that? After years together, after sacrifices, after standing by his side when we had nothing. Not useful. Like I was a broken appliance. It hurt so deeply I couldn't even name the feeling. It was betrayal, yes, but colder, like being erased from my own life by someone I trusted. And as the silence in that bathroom grew louder, something inside me shifted. I stayed in that bathroom for almost 20 minutes. Long enough for the makeup under my eyes to blur, but not long enough for the pain to make sense. People knocked. I said I wasn't feeling well. That part wasn't a lie. My stomach was in knots, my chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides and left me there, just a shell in work slacks and heels. When I finally stood up, I washed my face, looked in the mirror, and barely recognized the woman staring back. But even through the smudged mascara and red eyes, I saw something flicker. Not anger yet, not strength, but something quieter, a refusal to collapse. I went back to my desk, typed a few things without seeing the screen, and told my boss I needed to leave early. I didn't explain why. How could I? Driving home, I couldn't stop replaying his words. "You're no longer useful to me." It echoed like a sick joke. All the nights I held things together. All the times I chose us over me. The birthdays I planned. The bills I covered when he was out of work. The meals, the apologies, the loyalty. Apparently, none of it mattered. I was a chapter he'd decided to skip ahead from. But I was still in the story. That night, after hours of crying into a pillow I used to share with him, something inside me went still. I wasn't calm, I wasn't healed, but I was clear. I couldn't undo what he did, but I could decide what came next. I sat up, wiped my face, and grabbed a notebook from the nightstand. Not to journal, to plan. Because if he thought I was done, he hadn't been paying attention. I wrote down everything I remembered. Bank accounts, shared assets, passwords he probably thought I'd forgotten. I wasn't going to scream or beg or send a dramatic text. That's what he expected. No. I was going to be quiet, focused, strategic. Let him think he won. Let him settle into his smug little fantasy. Meanwhile, I'd start rebuilding, not just my life, but my power. He discarded me like furniture, like something old and in the way. But he forgot one thing. Furniture doesn't move. I do. And while he was busy replacing me with his new woman, I was becoming someone no one would dare underestimate again. I left the house 2 days later. No dramatic goodbye, no note on the counter, just silence. I packed what was mine, took one last look at the walls that had heard both our laughter and my breakdowns, and closed the door gently behind me. Let him think he broke me. Let him walk into an empty house and feel proud of his cruelty. He had no idea I took more than just my clothes with me. Before I walked out, I made sure to gather everything. Photos of documents, screenshots of joint accounts, backup drives he didn't even know existed. I wasn't leaving empty-handed. If he wanted to treat our marriage like a transaction, fine. I was going to make sure the final bill didn't just sting. It scarred. Every drawer I opened wasn't just packing. It was preparing. He always underestimated me, said I was too soft, too emotional. But he mistook kindness for weakness. And that was his first mistake. I installed a small, hidden camera in the hallway closet, connected to a cloud drive only I could access. Just in case. Because I knew Ethan. The man behind that smug message wouldn't stop at replacing me. He'd try to erase me. But this time, I was 5 steps ahead. The next morning, while he was busy posting selfies with his new upgrade, I was in a lawyer's office. It was clinical, quiet, and smelled faintly of coffee and determination. I laid everything out: the message, the years of financial sacrifice, the joint accounts I helped maintain, the paper trail he never thought I'd notice. My lawyer didn't say much at first, just took notes, then looked up and said, "We've got something here." That sentence alone felt like the first inhale after drowning. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I was preparing. For war, yes, but more than that, for freedom. While Ethan was out playing the role of victorious bachelor, I was building my case brick by brick. Cold, clean, documented facts, screenshots, transactions. His own digital arrogance was going to be my best witness. And every night, in the quiet of my friend's guest room, I reviewed the footage. The camera had already caught things that weren't just infidelity, but reckless behavior in our shared home. He didn't know I was still watching, and that gave me a strange kind of peace. I didn't need to slam doors or shout into the void. I just needed patience and proof. The hardest part was staying quiet. Every instinct in me wanted to call him out, to expose the truth, to scream that I wasn't the fool he thought I was. But I bit my tongue. I smiled when people asked how I was doing. I told them I was taking time for myself. And in a way, I was. I was taking time to become unrecognizable, to him, and maybe even to myself. I opened a new bank account, changed passwords, forwarded key emails to an encrypted folder. Every click was a layer of armor. Every document saved was a step closer to justice. It felt less like survival and more like strategy now. I wasn't just reacting, I was planning something deliberate, something undeniable. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming control. He thought I walked away defeated, that I tucked my tail and left like a woman scorned. But what I really did was reposition myself. Quietly, powerfully, and while he flaunted his new life like a trophy, I was gathering every nail I'd need for the coffin he didn't know he was building. I watched from the sidelines while he paraded her around like a prize. Dinners, vacations, late-night selfies with captions like, "Real love finds you when you least expect it." Meanwhile, I was sitting on a goldmine of truth. Every post, every smug update only fueled me. I didn't comment. I didn't react. I just took screenshots, collected timestamps, matched them to expense records and phone logs. His digital trail was a confession, and he didn't even know he was talking. At night, I'd sit with my laptop, building a private timeline. Every suspicious transfer, every unreported bonus, every lie he'd woven into our finances. He had always acted like he was smarter than everyone else, especially me. But arrogance makes people sloppy, and Ethan had gotten very sloppy. The deeper I dug, the more I found. It wasn't just about cheating. It was fraud. It was manipulation. And I had the receipts. I shared everything with my lawyer, every piece, every folder, every hidden file. But I also did something else, something for me. I started documenting my story, not with names or specifics, but with honesty. I created an anonymous profile and began posting about narcissistic abuse, emotional betrayal, and the silent rebuilding process. At first, no one noticed. But then, women started to comment. The comments poured in. Women who had lived the same silence, the same dismissal, the same soul-crushing "you're no longer needed." They didn't know my name, but they knew my pain. And in their words, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in weeks. Purpose. I wasn't just surviving him anymore. I was becoming someone others could lean on. And strangely, That gave me strength I didn't expect. Ethan, of course, was too busy basking in his little honeymoon phase to notice. I watched him fake generosity, charm his new audience, talk about fresh starts and clean slates. But the slate wasn't clean. It was layered with deceit. I had evidence of unreported income, shady transfers between accounts, and more than one inappropriate connection at work. One of those connections? Married. I saved every detail. My lawyer was building the kind of case that makes judges raise their eyebrows. Spousal support, asset division, emotional damages, all backed by hard proof. Ethan thought silence meant submission, but he didn't recognize the sound of strategy. And with every day that passed, my story was evolving, no longer just a story of heartbreak, but of quiet power rising in the shadows. There was a certain thrill in watching him dig his own grave. Every public brag, every financial mistake, every overlooked detail, it all fed the quiet fire I was building. I didn't need revenge that screamed. I needed results that lasted. And the case we were assembling? It wasn't just solid, it was bulletproof. His facade was shiny, but underneath, rot. And rot always rises when you shine the right light on it. Behind the scenes, I was evolving too. I wasn't the trembling woman in the bathroom anymore. I was calculating, calm, and more self-assured with every step. I even started sleeping again. Not because everything was okay, but because, finally, I had a sense of control. My anonymous posts were gaining traction. Messages from strangers turned into community, and with each one, I felt less alone and more like a woman on a mission. He thought I was irrelevant, that I would fade quietly into some forgotten past. But the truth was, I had just hit record. The real story hadn't even started yet. And when it did, it wasn't going to be whispered. It was going to be heard. He didn't see it coming. The envelope dropped at his office, the official tone, the panic that must have crept in as he opened the divorce papers. Along with them came a request for a restraining order and a full claim to marital assets. It wasn't just a breakup anymore. It was a reckoning. And for the first time, I was the one drawing the lines, not him. My lawyer made sure every document was airtight. Every accusation had evidence. Every demand had legal weight behind it. And then came the twist he never expected. His new partner, the one he brought into our home, received an anonymous package. Neatly bound, no return address, filled with screenshots, bank records, and a few personal notes Ethan had sent during our marriage. I didn't need to explain a thing. The truth did the heavy lifting. Within days, she was gone, moved out, vanished from his social media like she had never been there. He spiraled fast. The man who once gloated online was suddenly silent. No more posts about new chapters, no more brunch selfies. The comments started piling up, followers asking where she went, what happened, why he looked like a shadow of himself. But I didn't say a word. I let the silence speak. And for once, it was deafening for him. And then, something unexpected happened. One of my anonymous posts, a short video about emotional abandonment and silent strength, went viral. Thousands of women shared it, commented, tagged their friends. Some even messaged to say, "You just told my story." They didn't know it was mine, not yet. But somehow they felt me in every word. And that connection, it lit a fire I hadn't felt in years. A news outlet reached out. They were doing a piece on women rebuilding after betrayal and wanted to feature anonymous stories from real people. I almost said no. I was still raw, still figuring out who I was outside of the damage. But something in me whispered, "Say yes." And so I did. Not for attention, but because I knew there were women out there still sitting on bathroom floors, wondering if they were broken beyond repair. Meanwhile, Ethan was unraveling. Rumors at work, HR inquiries. A few concerned colleagues started connecting dots between timelines and expenses. Turns out, when you treat people like they're disposable, they don't rush to cover for you. His carefully curated image was cracking, not because I shouted anything, but because I didn't have to. The day the interview aired, I watched it alone, curled up with tea, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like lavender and freedom. They kept my identity hidden, blurred my face, altered my voice, but it was my story, my pain, my strength, and hearing it told out loud, it did something. It took what he tried to erase and turned it into something permanent, something powerful. I didn't feel like a victim anymore. I felt like a survivor finally taking up space. My inbox flooded, not just with sympathy, but with solidarity. Women from everywhere thanking me, sharing their own stories, asking how I kept going. I answered every one, slowly, honestly, carefully, because I knew what they were really asking. Is there hope after being discarded? And my answer was yes. Not just hope, rebirth. Not just survival, transformation. Ethan had sent a one-line message to wipe me out of his life. And now, here I was. Not just standing, but thriving, with strangers quoting me and networks telling my version of events. He used to own the narrative. But now I was the headline. And I was just getting started. I never planned to become a voice for other women. I just wanted to survive. But the more I spoke up, the more I healed. And with healing came purpose. Within months, I launched a podcast, raw, real, no filters. I called it No Longer Useful. Every episode was a piece of me, a thread from my unraveling that now stitched other women back together. What started in pain became a place of power. Then came the book. I didn't write it to get even. I wrote it so no one would feel as alone as I once did. The first time I held the printed copy in my hands, I cried, not out of sadness, but because I had finally created something that couldn't be taken away. My name, my voice, my truth, in print. Permanence. The opposite of what Ethan made me feel for years. Of course, when the book came out, he tried to reach out. I saw the number flash on my screen twice, same area code, no name attached. But I knew. He waited too long. He underestimated what I'd build in the silence he left behind. So I did what he taught me in the most painful way. I blocked him without explanation. That silence? This time, it belonged to me. Ethan lost his job not long after. Financial misconduct. Ethics violations. The investigation had been building quietly, just like I had. I didn't celebrate it publicly. There was no victory dance, just a quiet breath, a sense of alignment. Actions have consequences, and the man who once told me I was no longer useful was now scrambling, isolated, without the safety nets he thought would always catch him. I heard through mutual contacts that he was struggling. Some even asked if I felt bad for him. The truth? I didn't feel much at all. Not hatred. Not revenge. Just nothing. Because I had moved on. My life wasn't about him anymore. It was about every woman who emailed me saying, "You gave me the courage to leave," or "I didn't even realize it was abuse until I heard your story." That's what mattered. That's what healed me. Knowing that my worst day had become someone else's beginning. That my voice, once dismissed in my own home, was now echoing through headphones, screens, and hearts around the world. I didn't need him to understand what he lost. I needed to understand what I gained. And I had, in every way that counted. On the anniversary of the message, that message, I woke up early. I made coffee. I opened my journal and smiled without realizing it. 1 year ago, I was broken on a bathroom floor, clutching a phone like it was the last thread of my identity. Now, I was whole. Not fixed, not perfect, but fully mine. I opened my camera, snapped a picture by the window, light pouring in like a quiet crown. Then I posted it. Just a single photo with one caption. Exactly 1 year ago, I became free. No names, no hashtags. But the people who needed to understand did. My inbox filled again, Not with pity, but with celebration, with sisterhood, with women marking their own anniversaries of freedom. It wasn't about Ethan anymore. It never really was. It was about rising. He gave me a dismissal. Cold, sharp, designed to end me. But I turned it into a doorway, into a platform, into a new life with boundaries, clarity, and strength I didn't know I had. And if he ever wonders what happened to the woman he cast aside, she's not gone. She's thriving, louder than ever. And she doesn't need to be useful. She just needs to be herself.